All right, welcome everybody. My name is Joseph Ranke. For those of you that I haven't met, I am the admin of the group, and we have started doing some different interviews of people because we got a big request for student loans and just finances in general. Started interviewing people that are doing different types of repayment plans. So we started rolling out some different interviews last week. And one of the big things in the group, it was a big question about 2-3 weeks ago. Somebody had posted about, did anybody ever get jobs for public service loan forgiveness? What's that process? And so I went out to one of our members who is an OT, Dominic, and some of you might know him from New Grad OT. But he's one of our FitBucks members that is on public service loan forgiveness. So called him up and I said, hey, you want to come on and do the interview and help some students and new grads? And he said, yeah, let's do it. So Dominic, welcome.
Hey, thanks guys. Thanks for having me.
So, first and foremost, before we even jump into the whole student loan stuff and public service loan forgiveness, I mean, think back about before you even started OT school, really what made you decide to even go that route to begin with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so it feels like forever ago, but it really wasn't. Maybe my junior or sophomore year in college, I was actually in a fitness science class, and I was on track to do athletic training as a career in undergrad. And in this fitness science class, a teacher reached out and she asked if anyone wanted to help a guy in the community or that works on campus to lose weight. And I figured, hey, that's a cool opportunity, something for the resume, because I know I wanted to go to grad school. And upon meeting him, I learned that he lives with schizophrenia. And so over the course of 2 years, him and I worked together, and bless his heart, we never lost any weight. But I learned a lot of stuff later once I was in OT school, like all the psych meds he was probably on and not having access to clean, healthy eating, things like that. But I just was like super fascinated by the way he lived kind of independently. The only things he doesn't do are drive or balance his checkbook, and kind of Googled it, kind of looked into it, and kind of stumbled on OT. And I was like, hey, you know what? That's kind of cool. And at the same time, I was kind of feeling burnt out in athletic training, just like with kind of just, it was kind of monotonous for me. And so I was just lucky enough to be in a position where I was early enough at college where I kind of just keep my major, but just tweak some of my classes so I could, take the right prereqs, add some psych classes and stuff. And I was super lucky enough to get in on my first try because I know it's pretty competitive.
Yep. So, I mean, getting in on that first try, where did you end up going to school? What made you decide that school? What went into that?
Yeah. I'm from Billings, Montana. That's where I actually live right now, and that's where I went to undergrad. And I applied to a variety of schools. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's great. I love it. I was, applied to different spots across the country. Knew I wanted to get out of Billings for a little bit, and found a school in Boston with the name of MGH Institute of Health Professions. My dad grew up in the suburbs of Boston. My extended family's out there. My grandma lives in Waltham, if anyone knows where that's at. And it was gorgeous. It's absolutely like you've done some stuff with the PT program there.
Yep.
The campus is unbelievable, and I knew once I was on there, I was like, this is it. I got to come here. And they were lucky enough to extend the invitation. So I've been graduated for a little bit over 2 years now. Been working about 2 and a couple months.
Yeah, I love that campus. I go to a lot of the Boston schools a lot. My wife's from Boston, so I love going out there, and I always get there early and just go hang out next to the not the pier, but it's like a little like sitting area where all the old ships are at and stuff, and just hang out. And it's actually really nice, especially if you go during the right time of year. It's like,
yeah, it's pretty touristy because it's like that the Navy Yard with the USS Constitution right in the middle. So there's a campus on one side, and then like huge tourist location, like campus on the other side.
Yeah, so I like to sit out there and people watch. I go out there and people watch. It's a good time. Yeah. So those of you that don't know, so Dom, in addition to working and going to school and stuff, he basically did a side job for New Grad OT, and that's a question that we get a lot too. How hard is it to be doing like side jobs or whatnot while you're a full-time student or a full-time OT? For those of you guys that don't know who new grad OT is actually Covalent Careers. You might have seen them around there. They're an awesome job resource. Brett Kesselbaum is one of the founders of it. He's a PT. They do like ODs, PTs, OTs. Fantastic company, a good friend of ours. So Dom, talk about that. How'd you get started with that? How hard is it? How much time is it taking? All that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I was kind of mentioned before. To rewind, I actually found it when I was on campus, and it was like right before some of my finals, and I just stumbled upon it. I was like, man, this is a really cool website. And I was just thinking, it was in the library, and I just made a little note tab on my computer, and I just wrote and typed as many different article ideas as I could. And I still have it. It's like this long. And I kind of reached out, and then Matt, the CEO, he's the OD, good friends with Brett. He kind of just said, hey, would you mind, do you want to manage this? Kind of take it under your wing. We don't know any OTs. And I said, sure, I'd love to. And I put in, I've been doing it for almost 3 years now, and it's been great. It's been a really wild ride. The coolest part is just meeting different students or new grads across the country and answering questions. We put out some really fun, creative content, and over the years, Covalent Careers has certainly grown as a company. I think they used to just be two or three, and Matt's extra bedroom, and then they had a small office in California, and they just actually moved to a new space, and they've got tons of people. People I don't even know. So it's been a really fun adventure. I think you asked me how hard it is to kind of balance time. It was tough at the beginning, and then I feel like I had more time during school I don't know how that works. And then I graduated, moved. I've started a serious relationship. I live with my now fiance. So all that stuff was kind of new job. So that stuff was pretty stressful. And I think I remember Matt sitting me down going, hey bud, what's going on? And I was actually, I work at a hospital in acute care, and I was lucky enough to I got a really flexible boss. So I actually work 4/10 with a day off during the week, and it actually kind of rotates. So it's a little confusing, but I have every Monday off. So I have Monday off, and I'll work Tuesday to Friday, and then I'll get Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off, and then work Wednesday to Saturday, and I get Sunday, Monday off, and it rotates. So I have every Monday and every other Tuesday to kind of work on my side projects. It's got its pros and cons. I got to work every other Saturday, which isn't the best. But I still get my 40 hours in, get to keep all my full benefits, keep my PSLF. And I guess that's how I'm able to do it. Super fortunate.
That is awesome. Plus you live in Billings, Montana, so you don't have huge bills or cost of living. So
right.
The whole fiance thing, that's new since the last time I talked to you. So congrats.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome. It wasn't too big of a hit to the budget either, which I was worried about, but I did it smart. So
yeah, no, that's exciting. That's definitely good stuff. So when it came to the student loans, of course, that's how we met. Again, the whole way that we met was, I can't remember if it was Dom that reached out to me or I had reached out to him, because we had a lot of OTs asking us about student loan stuff. So we actually had started posting some stuff on their blogs and all that type of stuff. And that's how I met Dom. And he was like, well, I want to talk about, my situation. I want to see what you guys do. But before we even get into that, just with your student loans, when did you start looking to them? What did you do at first? With your loans, all that stuff. What was the story there?
When did I start paying, or when did I start thinking about it, or what do you mean?
Wait, both. When you just started paying, and when you say, "Oh shit, I got to do something serious about this."
I have quite a bit from undergrad, probably 20 or 30. Grad school probably had 4 weeks in between, and the government or whatever company or agency makes you take a test or a quiz after you leave undergrad on making sure what the different stuff means. I took it, forgot about it. I was too busy. I wanted to party with my friends before I moved across the country and starting a venture. And it kind of didn't really hit me until maybe my second year of grad school. I kind of had this internal debate towards during school. It's one day it would be, oh man, there's no way I can go out for lunch and afford a Chipotle burrito. I have no money. And then there were other days it was just like, F it, I'm so far in the hole. Like if a burrito is what gets me through this week to pass classes, like I'm gonna do it. And it kind of flip flopped back and forth. And the thing is like I was fortunate enough to have a pretty significant scholarship through grad school. About 50% was paid for, 45 I think. Which I mean I couldn't afford to have gone out there regardless. Without it. But the cost of living in Boston, if people don't know, it is so expensive, so expensive. And I lived with my grandmother for 2 months, and I love her. She's the sweetest little old Italian lady, but we were not good roommates, and so I had to get out. So I bit the bullet and paid rent anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400 a month for like really crummy places, and that's kind of where I'm at in the hole. And I think there was one day I was just like by myself on the computer, and I like finally logged into, I think my lender at that time was Great Lakes, and I was just like, shoot. And I kind of had like a little panic attack, couldn't go to sleep. Like I just figured like I'm never gonna have a house, never gonna have kids. What the hell am I gonna do? And I went into a professor's office, the one I trusted most, Diane, Dr. Smith, and told her. And I think she had kind of seen that quite a bit. And I remember she sent me some stuff that made me feel better. I'm not sure if you'd recommend it as good financial advice, but she sent me a couple articles on how couples have paid debt by living off one person's income and investing in the other or paying off debt with the other, which I do now. And that has actually worked really well for me. But I think that's the first time I looked into it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to chat now that you're getting married because some stuff might change. So
yeah, I know. Probably marriage and finance is probably a whole nother topic on itself. But again, I didn't really look at it maybe until after graduation, started a job, and I think that summer I was like, okay, like let's take this seriously. And I remember you were so nice because I was so nervous because I was ashamed, embarrassed. Like I had a lot of guilt for taking on so much debt, knowing maybe I could have gone to a cheaper school or could I have lived with my grandmother for those whole 3 years? Like who knows? Just playing kind of what if in my head. And you were so nice and easy to talk to and just kind of said like, hey, it's okay. Like this is good to talk about. Don't bury your head in the sand. Like these are the things that we got to do to fix it. So thanks again. Like I haven't had lost a night of sleep over my loan since then. So I appreciate it.
Well, that's some of the big things. So, first of all, a lot of you guys have those natural feelings. Like you get nervous about it, anxious about it. I mean, we actually did like a poll because when we get on the phone with people, the first question we ask is, what type of questions you have.
Yeah.
And about 75% of them, the first thing they say is along the lines of like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't even know what they even look at. And they start saying about how they're just nervous and how how much anxiety they feel about it and all that type of stuff. I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, I would say at least once a week, I get on the phone with someone and that's the first question I ask and they just start crying. Like, so, and that's not uncommon, right? So, those feelings are normal, don't hide it. A lot of people, they want to put their head in the sand for a long time, but the longer you wait, the more anxiety it's going to cause. And then on the side note, just joking around, it's actually funny because, we've done, I want to say something like 150 different workshops now for different programs across the country. I always get the question. It's like, oh, what's the best repayment plan? Dom's about to do it, right? You get married to somebody that has a good income and no debt and use their money to pay off your loans. So,
right. Oh, my significant other has plenty of debt, by the way.
Oh, well, then, never mind. Good stuff. So anyway, Dom ended up, going for a nonprofit job. First of all, how did you decide I want to go nonprofit? How was the job search for the nonprofit? And then, we can talk about the student loan aspect from there.
Yeah, I was actually lucky enough to get a job at the hospital here in Billings where I did my field work at. So the end of OT education, you have 2 3-month clinical placements. And on my second one, they had a position open, and I applied, and they were nice enough to give it to me. And they waited for me to graduate and take my test and things like that. But I think I'd known for a while that like outpatient pediatrics wasn't for me. Outpatient like private practice hands wasn't for me. And so I think that kind of helped narrowed it down, because the facilities I were kind of looking at were just, I knew were nonprofits. A lot of hospitals are nonprofit, and that doesn't mean they don't make a profit. That just means they reinvest in their company, or, you know, they don't have shareholders or CEOs that take a bonus at the top. I don't know, maybe someone in my hospital gets a bonus. But a lot of times, like in November of every year, they cut everyone a check for like $200 or $300 for whatever, 4,000, 6,000 people, which is super nice, because that can be a world of difference for a CNA or someone that's cleaning beds or rooms or something like that. So I think I just kind of stumbled into the PSLF. You know, I never like searched out a specific company that was nonprofit. I do know that, I think you can go online, correct me if I'm wrong, you can go online and Google like any company, like how they file their taxes, right?
Yep.
So if anyone's like looking for a place out there, if you can't find it on their website, if they don't advertise, and if you're wondering, hey, I wonder if this hospital is nonprofit, you can Google it for sure.
Yeah, and just to let you know some stuff on that, what would we typically see, like outpatient jobs most of the time are actually for-profit companies. Any type of hospital-based is really nonprofits most of the time. Well, one of the big things you got to really be aware of, and I'll give you an example. So like my wife's a physical therapist, and out in California, she used to work for a company called Kaiser, at a hospital called Kaiser, which Kaiser is a nonprofit hospital, but the PTs and the OTs actually work for what's called TPMG, which is a for-profit entity that's contracted, so they don't qualify for the nonprofit. So a lot of you that are like students, or that you're interviewing, or you want to double check, one of the easiest ways to tell is the retirement accounts that they offer you. So like if they offer you a 403B or a 457A, like 99% of the time, those are nonprofits. Okay, like if you're getting a 401k offered to you, then most of the time that's going to be a for-profit entity. So that's like one easy way to tell. I'm also going to go in, in a few minutes, tell you guys how to actually make sure that you're working for the nonprofit, what to do, and all that type of stuff. But before I dive into that, one of the key things that I wanted Dominic to share is that, you got to understand how the whole nonprofit thing works. A lot of people think that it's actually a repayment plan. It's not. Okay. And the big thing in the news right now is that like 99% of the people on public service loan forgiveness are not getting it forgiven. And that's actually not the number one risk that we see. Okay, I'll explain that in a minute. But you first have to actually understand what plan you're on. And those plans are quote unquote normal loan forgiveness plans. They're income driven repayment plans that are 20 or 25 years long. And what happens is you go for that time period, your loans are forgiven. And on normal loan forgiveness, you have a huge tax. Okay, public service loan forgiveness, you don't have to owe a tax. So you have to set up a strategy if you're on public service loan forgiveness to say, well, what happens if I don't get this thing forgiven? Okay, you owe the tax. So Dom, just share your story a little bit about what you're doing. Like you mentioned earlier, since we talked, you haven't had to worry about this stuff because you put together a plan. Share that plan and what you're doing and how's it going so far?
It's great. I didn't do this at first. I was overpaying on my loans, which is another problem. If you do that, if you're doing the PSLF, and I learned the hard way, and it doesn't make any effing sense. Sorry for that. But if you overpay on a loan, or if you overpay, you're on a paid ahead status, and then your loans after that don't count as qualifying payments for your next 120 payments. Yep. So I discovered that after payment number 4. And so I called, because I Googled it. I was like, what the hell is this? So I called, and they're like, oh yeah, it's pretty common. We got to review your account and take away your plan ahead status. So go ahead, like if you're gonna pay off your loans as fast as you can, the PSLF is not for you. And so what you want to do is you want to pay the minimum that the government asks for you. And then I remember my first year, because it's based on your tax returns, right? So once you do, my lender was the Great Lakes, but once I did the PSLF, my lender is now like my Fed loan or whatever, the government. So they just take the loan and move it over to a different company.
And by the way, Fed loan servicing sucks. They're horrible. So
right. I've had good luck, knock on wood.
Yeah, cross your fingers, right?
Yeah, cross my fingers under here. So it's based off your tax return, right? And so like my first year out, I didn't have any real taxes because I was a student. So my I think they wanted me to pay $0 or something. And I called and I said, I can afford more than this. So I think they set me up like $300, $400 a month. I was like, that's fine, I can live with that. And then the next year, I had only worked, I started work in July. So then my next tax return only had 6 months of what I actually make. And so that one was real low. So your first couple of years, it's a good thing. And this is why, because, and Joe will teach you this, but basically while you're doing this, you're also saving money in like a taxable like investment account for this tax burden that you could have in 20 years. So Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, guys, like you want to pay the minimum, and then come 10 years, your loans are forgiven, like done. For whatever reason, if that doesn't happen, or you don't follow through, you don't do the right paperwork, they turn it down, you don't, for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. So you can stay on your normal income repayment program, and then in 20 years, your loans are forgiven. The hiccup with that is like the amount of loans that is forgiven, it is a tax burden. So then say if you owe $100,000 forgiven, it's your income plus $100,000 that you owe taxes on.
Yep.
So Joe explained this all to me perfectly, and it kind of made sense after that. So what I've been doing since then is I've been stashing, and Joe's got like this, if you guys sign up with him, he's got this perfect equation. It's basically just like how much you owe payment, and how much you should, like what your tax burden will be in 20 years, and then how much money you should invest every month. So I know for my tax burden in 20 years, I invest $300 a month. And I do that I have Fidelity for my 403B, not 401k. And I've like got my Roth IRA there, and then I just have like my investment account. And I felt comfortable enough doing that because I kind of take personal finance is kind of like not really a hobby, but I like to read about it a lot. But I didn't get there alone, and I certainly got there with like Joe's help. So if you're not like comfortable like doing that sort of investing part, definitely like talk to Joe, because like FitBucks handles everything for you. Like right, Joe? Like correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys will manage funds and do it all.
Yep.
So if it's not in your comfort level, or if you just want like, we're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars here. So, if you just want someone looking over your stuff for you, like Joe and FitBucks and the team is definitely like a good second, third, fourth pair of eyes to kind of manage everything for you.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, you brought up what happened to you where you're making prepayments and those don't get counted. We saw that so much. The tracking solution that you brought up, we actually tied into that technology the ability to track that. So like if you make prepayments or an overpayment, you're now notified saying, why are you making prepayments? You're not supposed to be doing this. And
nice.
Go and get it corrected with Fed loan servicing instantly. So that's something new. Now the other part too that we see, and this is something for you, Dom. I mean, that, especially when you get married. So Fed loans oftentimes messes up that monthly payment. They actually overcharge people. They do it when you're single, but they really do it when you get married. Mm-hmm. And we see it all the time where like if they tell you between you and your spouse you're supposed to pay combined $1,000, that $1,000 is supposed to be split between you and your spouse. Other times we see where they charge you both $1,000. Okay, and that can be a major cost thing. So again, we see it daily because of our tracking solution, but that's that big piece. Now, one of the things that Don pointed out in that is when he got the job to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. I just wanted to make sure I point this out. It was he was doing a clinical at a job that he liked. Okay, I can't tell you how many people that we talked to that just graduated, And we'll be like, where do you want to work? And they're like, well, I really liked working at this place that I did my clinical at. It's like, okay, did you ask for a job there? It's like, no. It's like, why not? Well, I didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a student watching this, I'm telling you right now, if you're doing a clinical and you like it, ask for a job. Like, they may say yes. All right.
For sure. It was like, I didn't ask, someone suggested I do it because I was too nervous, because I was only halfway through like a week 6. So I was really nervous or embarrassed that if they didn't want me or they wanted the other gal that applied, like I still had to be a student there for 6 weeks, and like I had to do a peer interview with people I already worked with, and then if I didn't get it, I still had to eat lunch with them. So it was really nerve-wracking. But I'm certainly glad I did it. And you know, it didn't work for me, but I tried to negotiate a raise, like, or a starting salary based on that they wouldn't have to train me, that I could just start as like a fully functioning therapist. They don't have to waste any money like training me to use their software. I could work at like 100, like whatever productivity level. It didn't work. It didn't. They didn't budge for me. But I encourage anyone else to that's applying, like, definitely ask for extra like couple thousand on the benefit that, you know, I don't know what the stat is on how much money it costs to train and hire someone. It's a crazy number.
Yeah.
So they made a killing off me.
At like for-profit company, the tough part when you try to do that stuff at like a nonprofit is because of their HR guidelines and laws, they're very strict on what they can pay people. So it's really hard to negotiate that and raises. It's really hard because it's like predetermined. But I definitely recommend trying to go in there. Like you said, that productivity part. I mean, we have statistics that basically show us like a 3-month ramp up for productivity, or not 3 months, I'm sorry, 3-year productivity. So if you can show that, hey, I'm already productive, that's a hell of a way to get more money, especially as a new grad. So, but that's definitely an important piece. On the student loans, what I wanted to bring up was, like Dom was talking about, when you're on normal loan forgiveness, there's this tax at the end of it. And everybody's worried about like the government not forgiving these things on public service loan forgiveness. And the reason why they're nervous is because all the headlines, I mean, it's more clickbait material. 99% of the people didn't qualify. There was 55,000 applications. When you actually dig into the details, it's something like 98% of those applications, they don't have the right loans. Like, they have private student loans, which don't qualify. They don't even work at a nonprofit, or they haven't been working for 10 years at a nonprofit. So 98% of those people shouldn't even file an application to begin with. Okay.
Right.
Those that got denied, that do work at a public service, is that they just filled out the form incorrectly. Okay. So there's actually a form now that you can fill out that tells you, does your job qualify? Do your payments qualify? Does everything qualify? There's no reason that you should be like, oh my God, am I qualified or not? But people are still nervous, and it's rightfully so. And like Dom said, the reason why he hasn't had to be nervous is because he has a game plan. And actually, the number one risk that we see with public service loan forgiveness is actually people leave within a 2 to 4 year span. They leave the nonprofit either because they leave to go to a private company, they get married and have children, so then they don't work full time. Mm-hmm. Or what we've been seeing a lot in the industry is their clinic, their nonprofit clinic, actually gets bought for a for-profit company, and then it gets switched. Okay, like we just moved our company, FitBucks, from San Jose to Austin, Texas, and the hospital that my wife is working for now, I mean, her clinic literally just got bought by a private company, and it went from a nonprofit to a for-profit. Okay, wow. So we see that a lot. But that's Dom, like he was saying, he has his strategy of, hey, this is how much I need to save, and he's saving it. Okay, and now you take that away from the government. You take that power away from them and say, look, I'm doing this. It doesn't matter if the government doesn't forgive it. It doesn't matter if I don't work there anymore, because I already have a plan for the long term. If I get this thing forgiven, great. I got a bunch of cash sitting there. If I don't, fine. I'm already saving for the tax. I'm in a good situation. Okay.
Right.
So with that being said, there's a lot of times that it'd be paying off debt aggressively or saving for that tax. A lot of people that we talk to, it's like, I'm having problems staying motivated or keeping doing it. And a lot of times those that keep doing it have a group around them that are influencing them, or a specific person. So just in your case, if you had to like name one person that is actually helping you do this stuff in terms of like a quote unquote cheerleader, you know, who would you say that person
I don't know if I have a cheerleader. I certainly know like a lot of my coworkers that I work with are there and like are very aware of the PSL. I say it wrong every time. Public service loan for, and like you'll see like everyone once a year will go down to HR with their employment certification form, that form Joe's talking about. So you get it filled out. You can do it whenever, but everyone I work with does it once a year. And so it's on file. So I've done it 3 times. I did it when I started in 2017, 2018, and I just did it this July. And HR, they're getting pretty good at it. They know exactly what they're supposed to do. The only hiccup is that at my facility, I can't remember how many hours is considered full time. I think it's 30.
The nonprofit is who determines that.
Right. And so there's some sort of thing where like you had to work, I don't know if the form says 40 hours, but one girl's full time, but she does 30 or something like that. That was, I don't know if I have a cheerleader. I devour all sorts of like financial content to ad nauseum at the point where it all just repeats itself. There's not that much. Like it doesn't take, you don't have to read books and books and books. You just have to read. They all say the same stuff. They all just say it differently. I don't know. I don't really have a cheerleader myself. I do it.
Sometimes that's the best cheerleader. So, yeah. What the main thing is, and what Dom is really good at, is like he says, he's into this stuff and he knows that he's going to follow it. And oftentimes we get a lot of negative distractions from around, our friends. They might be buying this car or this house or this or that. And all of a sudden it's like, well, why don't I do that? Right. Well, what they're not telling you is that they're burying their head in the sand. They have no plan. They're probably in debt up, past their eyes and past their heads. And it's going to come back and haunt them down the road. Right. So a lot of times just being your own cheerleader so that doesn't happen is fantastic.
Right. And trust me, I want a Tesla so bad. Like that's all I want. But I also I've got a 2005 Subaru that is like 189,000 miles. Like it's not going to quit. Like she's just going to keep going. So I'm not going to waste money on it if it still works. Because I know like that $60,000 car, that is the money, that power of money over a compound interest, if I were to waste now at such a young age at 27, is life changing by the time I'm 65 or 68 or whatever.
Yep.
I just know that personally, like I want it so bad. But what I do, Joe, is I max out my HSA. I do 10% of my retirement. I think you have to do 5 to get the full match. And that $300, that's all automatic. So I just make sure I don't even have the money to spend it, and it just gets stuck away into an account, and I never have to worry about it. That's just, someone's listening, like I know how much bigger my paycheck could be, but I know how much like I can live off of. Just through budgeting, and like the rest just gets invested. I never see it. I don't touch it. I've even thought about like just getting rid of the apps on my phone, so I'm not even checking it.
Yep.
Like, because sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I wonder how the markets are doing, and it doesn't matter. Like, I just want to just get rid of it.
Yep. That's one of the cool things. Like, so we're rolling out some new stuff over the next couple months and years, and like actually 2 of the big ones. A lot of the programs ask us to do courses. And so in the course, we actually talk about it's not where is this invested or where is that invested. That's not even the first step. The first step is looking at it and saying what percentage of my money is going where, and then setting those percentages. Is 15% going towards my debt, 10% of my gross income going towards my retirement, 10% of my income going towards mortgage payment, whatever it is. And then you don't even have to think about it. Like you get a bonus, a raise, whatever it is, the percentages, you just put it there and don't look at it ever again. And that's one of the cool things. So like one of the things that we're building for next year is like when you set those percentages, that our technology actually tracks those percentages for you and says, are you actually doing the percentages correctly and following that game plan? And then we track it with our technology and our scoring system and all that stuff to tell you if you're doing it right or not, or do you need to make adjustments or whatever it is. But that's, to Dom's point, too many people get stuck in the details and just lose themselves. You know, like I joke around with these investment blogs that I know, and they're always like, well, you should put it in this index fund versus this index. Who gives a shit? Like you're talking about like $2,000 difference over 30 years. Like I'd rather just say I'm putting 20% of my income there and just I don't need to check it. Like I know where it's at. Like I'm gonna go live the rest of my life.
Right.
All right. So good stuff. Good stuff. With that, I mean, Dom, thanks for coming on. Before we finish, any last words of advice? Anything to add?
No, I wish. I'm hardly the expert. So if anyone has questions, go talk to Joe, because I've only been doing this for a couple years and it works for me. But if you got any questions, like go to the guys that know it, go to the experts. You know, the nice thing about you guys and your team is just like it's PTs, it's OTs, it's like healthcare careers. Like you guys understand our struggles pretty well in terms of debt load versus income. And I'm not sure if anybody really understands that. And none of us therapists go in for it for the money. We just really like love what we do, and I feel like sometimes we're taking advantage for that. So it's just nice for you guys to be so wholesome and just looking out for us when not everyone is.
Thank you for the kind words. It's always appreciated. So, Dom, again, thanks everybody watching. Thanks for staying on and watching. And if you guys have questions, let us know. So we'll see you soon.
Yeah. See you guys. Bye.